What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Week 10 preview and predictions. And I cannot think of a better game to kick off the week of predictions than another top 5 matchup. Big noon kickoff will be here. College game day will be here, and everyone's eyes will be glued to the TV at noon or 11 or whatever time this game happens to be, wherever you are. It's a top 5 matchup from Happy Valley, the Penn State Nittany Lions, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Can Penn State beat a team they haven't beat since 2016, or will the Ohio State Buckeyes prove to everyone why they are still one of the best teams in the country after concerning performance against the Nebraska Cornhuskers? We'll dive on into everything you need to know about the Buckeyes and Nittany Lions here in just a little bit. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you for supporting me any way that you choose to do so. If it's here on YouTube, please interact with the channel any way you can, especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am. That means hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell so you don't miss anything that I talk about. Talked about teams in contention for the college football playoff earlier today, so go check that video out once you're done watching this one. But you can also go give me a follow on Twitter or X. It's at TailgateNate29, and I'm trying to formulate a plan for how I want to post stuff. But basically, if you're interested in the other field work I do as a sports media student and an aspiring sports media professional, such as games I call, articles I write, things of that nature, I highly encourage you to go check me out there over on X and look at some of the stuff that I do. Again, I hopefully will be posting a lot more there on that platform in the coming days, weeks. I know I've said that forever, but I promise I'm working on it. Anyway, with all that said and done out of the way, please support me any way you wish. I really appreciate it. And let's dive on in to talking about this game. Again, this is a huge matchup for both of these teams. Ohio State looking to bounce back and get past their biggest test since the game against the Oregon Ducks. This, again, was the other game that Ohio State fans had circled this year. And can Penn State, though, can they finally get over the scarlet and gray hump? And if they win this one, they probably have a pretty clear road to the Big Ten Championship. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we will first look at Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, and this Buckeye offense against Abdul Carter and this Penn State defense. And then we'll take a look at Drew Aller, Bo Pribula, and the Penn State offense against Jack Sawyer, JTT, Caleb Downs, and this Buckeye defense. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ohio State. I give you Penn State. Again, we will start by talking about this Ohio State offense versus this Penn State defense, and we're going to address the concerns from the game against Nebraska here in moments, but overall, you take a look, this offense has been very good this season. Coming out of the Oregon game, the offense was not the point of concern. It was the defense, and we'll talk about the defense here in just a little bit once we get done talking about this side of the football. The offense does have a ton of question marks from last week, but you take a look at what the offense has been overall this season. First and foremost, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson have been running really well here for both of these teams. You go ahead and you take a look down the line. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, those three pieces in the wide receiver room, especially that of the freshman Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, have been phenomenal, catching passes for the Buckeyes so far this season. And Will Howard at quarterback has been really good. Almost 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 picks on 74% completion percentage. He's been a little shaky over the past couple performances, but he's going to have a chip on his shoulder in this game. He wanted to go to Penn State, but Penn State turned him down. They elected not to recruit Will Howard, and I believe he's from Pennsylvania as well. So this is obviously going to be a big game for Will Howard, and it might be time for a Will Howard legacy game, because while this isn't a concern from the Nebraska game specifically, and I don't even know if you could pen it in as a concern overall, but the one thing that I think a lot of Buckeye fans thought we were going to see more of this season was Will Howard in the quarterback run game. Now, you could also say, I mean, when they've tried to do it, it hasn't really worked out the way Ryan Day and Chip Kelly envisioned, and I would agree with that statement very much so, but it is a huge X factor. When you have tailbacks like Henderson and Judkins and weapons like Smith and Egbuka and Tate and some of the other pieces that are around Will Howard offensively, it just makes the quarterback run game so much more vital if it can be done successfully. Hasn't been done as successfully as people have wanted it to be done. Sack yardage is included in that, but he only has, I think, 91 rushing yards on the season. Yeah, 91 rushing yards on the season, but has gotten into the end zone 5 times, and he's shown the ability to get outside of the pocket and run. I think Will Howard, though, especially when you look at some of the teams that have really concerned Penn State this year, that being Bowling Green keeping it close, Illinois keeping it close for the most part, but this doesn't necessarily apply in this realm. I'm talking about Bowling Green, talking about USC. Those are the only two games this year where Penn State and the defense has allowed more than one passing touchdown. Well, Will Howard has gone for more than one passing touchdown, and I think pretty much every single game this season. So this is going to be a very, very important game for Will Howard, not only for him personally, but for him from a team standpoint as well. Now let's address some of the concerns here that Ohio State saw against Nebraska. One, they couldn't run the football, and that is kind of leading into the bigger issue that we'll talk about here in just a little bit, but more specifically when you talk about the pass game as well, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, two teammates that have combined for almost 80 catches for the Buckeyes this year, and two of the best wide receivers in college football, got only 8 targets in that game. Ohio State could not run the football, and it was because of the offensive line, and they tried to fix it in the moment. They didn't adapt. They didn't say, okay, we're going to go with the pass game, mix in the run here and there, but we're mainly going to throw the football. They tried to fix the run game right then and there. Why? Well, Josh Simmons, the left tackle, did go down for Ohio State in that Oregon game. Probably going to miss the remainder of the season. At least that is what I am hearing. And at least what I have read, that left tackle spot in the offensive line, I mean, geesh, it got beat in pass protection, it got beat in run blocking, it got beat in everything. This was a Buckeye offensive line specifically at that position where it probably was the stronger side of the offensive line. Now the right side of the offensive line is a whole lot stronger because that left tackle position is really, really weak. And when you go up against the defensive front that has got Dennis Sutton and Abdul Carter and Zane Durant, you cannot afford to have a weak spot on the offensive line. Ohio State's going to be able to get it fixed. Again, this is Ohio State. The backups are really, really good. But they got to find some rhythm with the offensive front, and that is going to lead to more rhythm offensively. But again, as I just said, this is the Penn State defensive front that has got those guys there, right? They have Zane Durant, Abdul Carter, Dennis Sutton, and so many other players in that linebacker room, in the defensive back room, that can bring blitzes and that can provide pressure. No one has more sacks over the past 3 years of college football than the Penn State Nittany Lions, while the pass rush, at least statistically, is not as killer as we've seen out of the Nittany Lions the past 2 seasons. It still has the ability this year, and especially if the offensive line is still going to be a weak point for this Buckeye team, and this Buckeye offense as a whole, Penn State is going to take full advantage of that. And I think no matter what, even if the offensive line for the Buckeyes proves to be a ton better than it was last week against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, I think Penn State is going to be able to provide some pressure. They're going to make life difficult for Will Howard and this team, but you have to be able to find more rhythm offensively. This is the Penn State team that only gives up 4.5 yards per play. It's one of the best defenses in the entire country. They have the ability to force turnovers. They haven't forced a ton this year, only 9 through 7 games, I do believe, which, again, just over 1 turnover per game. But the rush defense has not allowed anything all season long. Ohio State's going to want to try to establish running that football because, again, that's the thing that you want to fix from last week. They couldn't run the football, and it's what led to the seemingly stagnant offense because they tried to run the football. They tried to fix it in game, and it didn't really work. You might have to move to a pass-heavy attack if you are Ohio State in this game, which I think is why Will Howard is such a vital piece here. Not only in the pass game, but once you establish the pass game, once Penn State commits more resources to that, yes, the run defense has been fantastic, then that's when you can get Will Howard outside of the pocket. Then that's when you can run Henderson and Judkins outside of the tackles and try to rip off a big run. They're a lot better at running in between the tackles, especially to that left side, but that's the weak point for Ohio State right now. And again, this is the Lions pass rush that can take full advantage of it. The Nittany Lions are a really, really aggressive defense, and they're also aggressive within their secondary as well. I mean, it's not like Will Howard is just going to say, okay, or it's not like Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, Will Howard's going to say, okay, the run game's not working, let's just gun it over the secondary. That's not going to be easy either. You got guys like Reed and Wheatley and even some of the linebackers like Kobe King and Rojas that have been good this year. A.J. Harris, one of the best corners in the entire country. It is not going to be easy. This is secondary that has forced 27 pass defended and 6 picks. They're going to make life difficult on this Buckeye offense. We'll tell you what I think is going to happen here in just a little bit, but now we have to talk about this Penn State offense against the Ohio State defense. Now, it's not like Penn State's offense is all sunshine and rainbows either. They got some issues. Theirs is not, however, on the offensive front because the offensive line has been really, really good this year. Again, let's look at the team as a whole first. You take a look at the run game. I mean, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton right there with Judkins and Henderson as one of, if not the best, running back duos in the entire country. Tyler Warren at the tight end position is really good. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of by committee in the wide receiver room. Julian Fleming hasn't played as big of a role as we thought, but he's starting to really creep into this offense, still does not have a touchdown catch. Clifford, Wallace, Evans, those are some of the other guys you'll see there. And then Nick Singleton out of the backfield, a little bit more of a threat to catch the football than his counterpart in Katron Allen, even though Katron Allen can do it there as well. But Drew Aller has been spectacular, and what he's been able to do within this Penn State offense has been amazing to watch this year. Has 1,640 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4 picks on 71.3% completion percentage. Again, maybe you're like, oh, that stat line's not, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It's not like he's putting up tremendous numbers. No, but this is a run-first offense, and the downfield ball was what you were worried about with Drew Aller coming into the year. He has been able to find that this season. It's not like he's ripping off 70-yard pass plays, but the downfield pass, the medium to long pass, is becoming more and more effective for Penn State this season. That has made a huge difference within this offense, but there is a problem with this offense, and it is the fact that Drew Aller is likely going to be a game-time decision. So now, if you are the Ohio State defense, you have this sort of unique, call it an advantage if you want, that's what I'm going to call it, to be able to prepare for both. Because if Drew Aller plays, he's probably not going to be 100% healthy. It looked like that injury, I believe, to his knee in that Wisconsin game last week could end up really hurting him. He might not be 100% ready to go. Now, if he is, that's really good for Penn State. If he's not, you're probably going to see him and Bo Pribula play. But now Ohio State can prepare for him as well, because Pribula, a much bigger threat to run than what Drew Aller is. Now, Pribula completed 85% of his passes, 95 yards, I think, had a touchdown or two last week against Wisconsin, but he's the team's third leading rusher, 133 yards and 1 touchdown, hasn't ripped off a run bigger than 14 yards, but if Ohio State's defense is not careful, I mean, they let up a big run to Dylan Gabriel 3 weeks ago, and last week they let up a big run to Dylan Raiola. The quarterback run game, especially if Bo Pribula is A, the starter, or B, even plays at all, which, Penn State's going to try to work him into this game plan. The Buckeye defense has got to prepare for it, and they've got to be better in that quarterback run game. But I think the Buckeye pass rush has got to come alive here when they faced a really good offensive front in the Oregon Ducks. And one of the keys to the game was for the Buckeyes to be able to get pressure. They couldn't do that. They could not get through that Oregon offensive front. The Buckeye pass rush has got to come through here. It has got names on top of names on top of names. JTT, who has been a hellish force for Penn State over the past 2 times that these two teams have played, specifically the last time that these two teams played in Happy Valley. JTT had the game of his life 2 years ago. You go ahead and you take a look at some other forces there. I mean, Jack Sawyer, Tyleek Williams, and this is the defensive front that's absolutely loaded. The linebackers can get pressure. The secondary is really, really good, led by Caleb Downs. Denzel Burke had a much better game. Davison Igbinosun, yeah, he had a couple pass interference penalties. That's pretty usual for him. He's a really handsy corner. One of the best lockdown corners, though, in the entire country, along with Denzel Burke. And overall, this is the team that's been able to get pressure. They have 20 sacks. They've forced 10 turnovers, which, again, right around the same amount that Penn State has forced so far this season. But much like the Nittany Lions, a lot of those coming by way of, or I should say, they're actually, this is surprising to me, actually, just finding this out. They're actually equal in terms of interceptions and fumbles, but it does feel like the Buckeyes have had more chances to intercept the ball than they have to be able to force a fumble. But they're also really good on third down here. So can Penn State control third downs? I think that's just not a key only offensively, but also defensively. This team is converting 50% of their third down opportunities. It helps them stay on the field, and it helps them grind out games against opposing defenses. Buckeye run defense has been stout, much like it has been on the other side of the football with the Penn State rush defense this year. But the biggest key for this Buckeye defense is, look, it allowed 8 plays of 25 yards or more against Oregon. It allowed a couple of them there, here and there against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but they had 3 sacks and 13 tackles for loss in that game. They're going to be able to get down there in that backfield. They're going to be able to come alive, and I think they're going to make life difficult for either Drew Aller or Bo Pribula. If it's Aller, it's up to him to move that pocket. If it is Bo, Pribula, well, make Ohio State pay for being aggressive when they do, right? Get bro Pribula out on that run and be able to rip off an explosive play on the ground like we saw Dylan Gabriel and Dylan Raiola do against this Ohio State defense. But guys, it is now time for my official prediction. Everyone's eyes are going to be here on this game. And to me, ultimately, what it comes down to, I definitely feel like Penn State has got everything it needs to be able to hang with this Buckeye team. There is no doubt in my mind that Penn State can win this game. Penn State has not been able to get by Ohio State since 2016, since the blocked kick return that won them that game, and ultimately probably is what kept Ohio State, or I shouldn't say what kept Ohio State out of the college football playoff because they made it that year, but it's what helped Penn State get in to the Big Ten championship game was beating this team. This is a huge test for Penn State, but it's a huge test for Ryan Day as well. He's got to try to look to flip the narrative that, hey, who says I can't win big games? I can win big games. I can win games like this. A couple of things are playing into my decision here and my prediction here. One, I do think that Ohio State has more horses here. Penn State has got the necessary pieces to be able to keep up, but I don't think they can keep up with everything that Ohio State is going to be able to throw at them. If this Ohio State offensive front is as bad as it was last week, Penn State is going to win this game, and I don't care who starts at the quarterback position. But being as it is, I think Ohio State's going to have a rebound game. While I don't think the offensive line is going to be perfect, it's going to have its holes and it's going to have its flaws. It'll be better than what it was last week. Will Howard will have himself a really good game, and the quarterback health and safety questions do concern me for Penn State. If Drew Aller's not 100%, I think he gives them the best chance to win. I think that's really going to hurt this team. The Buckeye run defense is sensational. Penn State will look to try to ground and pound. I just think that this is the game Penn State is going to cover because they can win this game outright. But also, until I see Penn State beat Ohio State, I'm going to continue to roll with the Buckeyes here in this matchup. I think this is a huge bounce-back game for Ryan Day, for Will Howard, for Chip Kelly, for everyone involved in Buckeye Nation. I do think they are going to go on the road and be able to get this one done. How confident am I in that? Not necessarily super confident. Again, if that offensive line is anything like we saw last week, and if it's anything as bad as it was last week, Penn State's going to be able to create havoc, maybe force a turnover or two that can help change the tide in this game. But when Will Howard gets going, and when he targets these weapons, and when the run game is going, and this defense is playing as well as it has throughout this season, minus the Oregon game, I think that's going to spell trouble for Penn State here in this matchup. Very competitive game, and something tells me we're going to have a really darn good shot to see overtime in this matchup. But I do got the Buckeyes 26-24. Please let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section down below. I can't wait to watch this one unfold. My eyes will be glued to the TV at noon Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys tomorrow with some more predictions. Goodbye.